Thank you, and thank you for having me here. In my presentation, I will talk about Paul the Docs. And what is Paul the Docs, actually? In the end of 2015, we started to think about that it would be nice to gather some information about the Write the Docs community, because it's continuously growing, and we wanted to investigate how people are doing their jobs, what their current status in documentation, and what they wanted to do in the future, actually. So, I particularly wanted to thank to David, Eric, and also for Christoph to make it happen. And yeah, so what you need to keep in mind about this research. So in 2016, we published a questionnaire where we collected a few interesting questions for you, and 100 answers came back to us, and we analyzed it. It was totally awesome because it was easy to count percentage with that. So you will see that it's pretty great. We used snowball sampling because it was easy, and unfortunately it means to us that our sample is not representative, which means that the demographic data may not apply for the whole community. But for that, we ask for your help, because if more of you are filling out the questionnaire, we will say that our data is getting closer to be representative. Okay, so about the demographics. As you can see, the age shows a great diversity. It was awesome to see that from 18 to over 60, we have members of the community. Unfortunately, about sex diversity, I can't say anything because we have a small sample size, so we need to gather more data about that. The same applies for the country of residence. What you can see here is actually that we get the biggest contribution from United States, from Canada, also from Germany, and from Australia. We ask you to tell a bit about your previous and your current industry. What's interesting about the data on the top, that those who actually work in a developer or a support environment tend to shift towards the technical writing. And when we talked about titles, what we are using in the writer community, it looks like that more of you using technical writer, senior technical writer, lead technical writer, some of the developer areas, also content strategist. But as we heard a great enlightening talk yesterday from Beth, there are some other opportunities to change your name, because there is a great diversity in names also. I will hand you over the slides so you can check it through. I also asked you what kind of languages you are using during technical documentation, and 98% of you said that you are using English. It's not a big surprise, but it's also good to see that other languages are there, but of course a lot slower or smaller percentage. If we are talking about work experience, we can see that most of the people are between 1 and 3 years of experience, or more than 5 years of experience. What is really interesting that there is a gap between the two, which may means that after 3 years of experience, some of those who are working in the field of technical writing, they may tend to move forward to other fields. So, just to move forward with that, I also asked you, how did you start to work in the field of documentation? And I like to ask you to think about that, and how you started to work in the field of documentation. And because when I analyzed the data, I was a bit surprised that it's not that obvious. That 19% of the community says that it was a coincidence, actually. And of course, you like writing, and from tech support, it's also a good point of view to join the tech writing writer community. But as you can see, it also shows a great diversity where you come from. So there is not a straight line from or into technical writing, I would say. In the second part of the analysis, I like to share how you actually work. So you mainly use the following tools as you shared: GitHub, Confluence, Word, Sublime Text. Of course, a lot of text editors. When we talk about documentation standards and style guides, more than 70% said that they use in-house style guides. 23% mentioned that they are using Chicago Manual of Style, and 20% said that they are using none. When we are discussing typical technical writing outputs, we can see that Markdown is definitely on the top, also GitHub flavored Markdown. And when we are talking about workflows, we can see that self-review is the highest. It doesn't mean that those who said that they are doing self-review, they're only doing that, but they are also doing that beside other kind of reviews, because you can see that the percentage is more than 100%. So it was a multiple choice question. And it's good to see that those who are working in the field of technical documentation, also doing self-review beside peer review, and we can see that automated testing is also got 14%, and only 1% said that they are not doing any kind of workflow at all. There was a question where I asked you to tell us a bit about what kind of skills you found most important as a technical writer. And when I did the text analysis, I realized that there are two kinds of skills what you listed. One of them is personality skills, and the others are technical skills. So you can see the personality skills first. Yeah, good communication skills, of course, that's really important. But the other one, what I found really interesting, is curiosity. So you said that it's really important to be curious about the topic what you are writing about, and also to have a passion for continuous learning. And that means not just learning about technical writing, it also means learning about the product what you are writing about and know how to learn about something. If we check other important technical skills, you can see that this is a bunch, but we can also separate them into two different groups. So one is about technical skills like web development, HTML, CSS, and coding, and GitHub workflow. But the others are definitely about how you can communicate with others, how you can do interviews, how you can do research, and how you can actually connect both sides. And in the last part, I did a comparison because I wanted to show you that those who actually work in a different way, so for example alone, or in a team with other technical writers, or in a team with other professionals, may have different kind of background. So what you can see here actually, that I compare the work experience of those who are working in different groups, like alone or with other professionals or technical writers. Those who work alone, you can see that they got represented for all of the experienced years, like 5, 3, and also 1. But those who actually work with other professionals, they knew so no one were represented in the group of 1 year experience. And those who work in a team with other technical writers, there were no person who said that they had 3 years of experience or around. Why could that be? It may because in the team with other professionals, you need to have some kind of basic knowledge to get involved into the process, to know how to work with other professionals, to how to ask them how to get into the workflow. But when you are working in a team with other technical writers, you get there as a new person also, because you can find your mentor there. So they can show you the way how to learn on the way, how to actually involve yourself into the process. If we see the first column alone, it means that, of course, you can start as a technical writer alone, but also get into the field there or work alone after 5 years also. I also compared what kind of typical technical writing outputs the different groups produce. Of course, it's not a surprise that all of them producing software documentation. The difference is that the release notes only appears with the teams. And what we can also see that those who work alone, they produce a bit more diverse kind of documents, and those who work in a team, especially with other technical writers, they have less opportunity to try out different kind of outputs. If we check the style guide, we see that all of the teams using their in-house style guide, usually, but those who work alone sometimes are not using style guides, maybe because that project, for that project, so it's not necessary for some projects. But if you check that the last column, if you are working in a team with other technical writers, they are sometimes using Chicago Manual of Style, and of course it means that if you are in a group with other technical writers, you need to adapt and find a way to work together as a great team. Also, you can see that if we are checking the review processes, of course teams using review processes with a team, that's another surprise. But those who work alone and those who work with other technical writers also use peer reviews. Yes, of course, those who work alone you also use self-review more than the other teams. Yeah, career and progression. It was awesome to see that all of the 3 groups reported. And a lot of people reported actually that they are already there. That was they wanted to reach. That was the position that they wanted to achieve. It's not a surprise or so, because you saw that those who, most of the participants of each of the group had more than 5 years of experience. Also, what we saw that those who work in a team in both groups said that they like to be content strategists or product or project managers, and those who work alone, some of them reported that they are like to move forward into developer evangelism. Yeah, and in the end, we also asked you what kind of technical writing trends encountered in the past year, and you can see that it's almost the same for all the 3 groups. That it means that the members of the community getting the knowledge from the same place, and they agreeing what's the most important. So it doesn't matter if you are working alone or in a team with other professionals or with other technical writers, you got the new trends. Okay, and thank you for listening to me. I hope you enjoyed it. If you feel that you like to fill out the questionnaire because you feel that you'd like to add something more into it, or we may miss something what is not in our results, feel free to fill it out, and we will also share it in the Slack channel of Write the Docs, and we may send it out to you also. Thank you a lot.